Are we ready?
You're listening to Hollywood on Motorcycle Madhouse on iTunes and all major podcasting platforms.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go!
And welcome out there over on Spotify, iTunes, and the rest of the stations that we are on. This is Motorcycle Madhouse, and welcome, hooligans. How you guys doing? We are taping a great show today, and it's going to be about why motorcycle clubs fight. That's this segment right now. Again, we are on Spotify, so pass the word. We got some big sponsors over on the radio, and I do got to give a shout out over to everybody on YouTube today that is watching this episode on video. It is great. Numbers came out at the end of last month. We had over 1.1 million minutes watched at HarleyLiberty.com. Boy, did we blow out freaking numbers on that one, but we always do. But some people, you know what, they actually asked me about HarleyLiberty.com, and most of you know, those that don't follow us don't know, or you got idiots out there that preach one thing or another, is all that site is pulling from the Reuters and AP news wires. Yeah, it cost me a pretty penny, but you guys are worth it. So that's what HarleyLiberty.com is. And remember, I cannot change anything that's coming out of that. That's one of the things, or they'll like suing me or something like that. But let's get to topic in this segment. I had a question from a subscriber or listener, whatever it is, and they asked me why motorcycle clubs fight. Well, I guess it's a pretty interesting question when it comes from newbies and stuff like that. And you kind of got to wonder, in today's environment where cops are always profiling clubs. Down in Texas, we actually did a story over at the Lone Star Rally. The cops were out in force, man. They had freaking those armored units down there, I guess. And they were up in the towers with binoculars and on the radio talking. And, it is getting kind of overdone, if you ask me. I guess down in Texas, it could be an effect of the Waco Twin Peaks deal down there. The reason why cops are acting the way they are. Because, you know what? Even during the early periods when I came in the early 90s, yeah, it was bad, but it was never this bad. These guys have went over the top when it comes to motorcycle profiling the clubs anyway. Now, if you're not riding around, a part of an RC or an MC, like an independent and stuff, they're not going to bug you much. And I'll tell you that. They're not going to bug you. I'll be honest with that. But if they see a patch that you're with any type of organization, yeah, they usually ride you a little bit, man. And we're even talking about Christian motorcycle clubs. They ride them as well. The clubs with the three-piece patches, and it's like their radar zeroes in on you. They got this radar. I always find these people to be busybodies because they want to fill their coffers. Most people don't understand that the police have to show that they're actually doing something to get money in their bank. So, yeah, the profiling's bad, and I don't understand why clubs right now are not on the down low. Anything that goes on should be on the down low. You shouldn't be making the papers or stuff like that, because it's just going to come back and backfire on you. That's why I've been a big advocate of MCs actually, get a public relations officer, get ahead of the stories, get your side of the story out. Because if you don't, all you're letting them do is propagize against you, and it's not doing you guys any good. What's worse is you have the independents and you got civilians out there saying, well, why are they crying about motorcycles? And this, you know what, I'll get into the main subject. I know I got off a little bit, but this, I think, goes into a part of it, is the repercussions of the fighting between the MCs. But the people out there, independents, and even other clubs are saying, well, why are you crying and whining about them profiling with all the violence going on? Now, there was a story that just came out where 3 people on motorcycles got shot. Now, I don't know if it has to do with club-related stuff, but it does kind of seem fishy that 3 people got shot. At least they were able to get off on the side of the road. I do not know the condition of what's going on right now. We'll be investigating that as more information comes out. But the motorcycle club rivalry, let's talk about that for a minute. You know, as far as MCs have gone in the past, I'm talking, you know, all the way back to Hollister, man. Clubs have always tried to put their pecker on the table. And that is just human nature. Human nature is to try to get to the top, keep your position, and keep it by any means necessary. So I think that would be the short answer right there of why motorcycle clubs fight. That's just like any other organization on the street. You know, well, you know, it's more money and power on the street, but that's why they do it. They want to be top dog. So there used to be a thing in the 60s where the 1%er clubs actually sat down at a table and they formed, how can I say it, a 1%er confederation. And they had agreements where, here's the territories, don't go here, don't go there, there's no problems. I remember the West Coast clubs weren't supposed to go east in the Mississippi River or into the Midwest, and the Midwest clubs weren't supposed to go into the West Coast or the East Coast. You know, that's just an overall blanket of what that association meant. And then came the 60s. And we all know what the 60s were about, you know. I wish I actually grew up in the 60s sometimes, man, because I bet the parties were just something else, man. Can you imagine the parties in the 60s? Man, old timers, man, old timers. Those graybeards, they knew how to do that partying. Oh, by the way, we do have Judge coming up on an episode. He is an old timer, and we're going to be talking about the way it was compared to the way it is now. So I can't wait for that interview. We've had Judge on the show before. If you want to be a guest on Motorcycle Madhouse, just go ahead and shoot me emails at info@insanethrottlebikernews.com. Put in the subject line, interview requests for Motorcycle Madhouse. That way I see it, because I get so many damn emails. It's unfreaking real. And I know a lot of people get mad at me, but, you know, when you're getting all these emails, it's hard to keep up. But anyways, as going back to the clubs and why they fight, I blame it on human nature, but there's a smart way of doing stuff. And right now, I don't think the clubs have been smart in the way they're trying to get their points across. You know, motorcycle club profiling's real. I don't care what Leo on a YouTube channel is telling you. We all know they cover for themselves. That's just the way it is. They're not going to come out there, be, honest with you. They're always going to tell you everything clubs do is bad and everything that Leo does is good, even though we know that, there's a lot of bad apples in the Leo as well. But they don't want to talk about that. All they want to talk about is what clubs do. They'll go around throwing it out like they're motorcycle gangs. And I have in the past said, hey man, and you got to be real when you're doing this kind of stuff, because I have said in the past that when you're out there doing gang stuff, well, what do you think the public's going to look at you like? You're doing gang stuff. So what do you expect, man? And I think it should be up to the leadership. Yeah, you guys don't get along. I've always been one of them guys that say, maybe you should look at history. And the history of Lucky Luciano and the 5 families out of New York. Now, the 20s, when Prohibition was around, it was crazy on them streets. Oh, Chicago, known worldwide for Al Capone. But anyway, it was crazy. They had these family fights and killings. It was a gangland war. Then Luciano came along with Lansky and said, we have to form a commission. And on that commission, all the families are going to sit on it. And if we have a problem, the commission's going to address it. That way, we can get back to business and not have all this violence and not have the federal government on us all the time. And that actually worked out until the 60s. The government used to say there was no organized crime. There was no such thing as the mafia until that incident up in New York when they all got caught up in that meeting. And then it was, okay, yeah, we have this and that, and John F. Kennedy came and started those hearings up, and that's really when the syndicate and all that, we call them the syndicate or outfit here in Chicago, came to light to the general public. And then when anything that went down, it was on the news. The Leo were right out there anytime something happened, and that gave the federal government the funds they needed to get after people. See, Melrose Park, Chicago, we call them FBI, Forever Bother Italians, because a lot of neighborhoods were a lot better when they were in charge. But the point being is their coffers get filled. So I always said, with all the 1%er clubs, if you don't have to like each other. You're never, with everything that's gone in the past, they're never going to get along. 1%ers have drawn the line. They're never getting along. That's just the way it is. But the smart way of doing it is coming to the table. Go to the table and hash things out where it's at a national level or an international level. But a lot of people don't understand at the international level. Countries have their own way of doing things. The United States don't, it depends on the club, yes, don't run everything around the world. They got their own system in different countries because let's just be honest, man. Other countries have a different culture than we're in. A lot of 1%er clubs here, you have to have American bikes, but overseas, you don't. So that's just the difference there. Going back to sit down, I think if you took the model of what the 20s mafia did and came together and said, okay, if there's any problems, sit down at the table and hash it out. Once you stop the violence, once you stop the fighting, you're going to see that you're taking away the propaganda piece from the cops, and you're not selling stories within the media because the media is always going to run with a violent story. That is what sells. What don't sell is 1%er clubs going out there and doing the charity work, even though that is the best thing in the world and that's what represents most 1%er clubs. That ain't going to garner you any attention in the media because it don't sell. So now you got to take away all the propaganda that they're going to use against you. And doing so means coming together, even though you hate each other and you never thought that that would be an option, and say, hey, enough's enough with us being in a newspaper almost every day. See, every day I put at least 3 stories out on HarleyLiberty.com. That's how I got it set up through the RSS feed, through the Newswire services. 3. And God forbid, every day, every single day, 3 stories come out about this club fighting that club, this club fighting that club. And it's just a vicious circle. So somebody has to step up and say, let's cut this circle off. And let's truly, because bikers, they have everything in common. Even the 1%ers, their love for freaking riding, their love for their brothers, their love for being free. So why not use that common bond and bring something together? I think that's what the federal government, I think that's what law enforcement fears the most, is clubs coming together, stopping the violence, and it puts them on Front Street with no money coming into the budget. Fair enough, I think. But another reason why, because I want to get into some of the reasons why clubs fight. One of the biggest reasons that clubs fight is because of women. And it even shows within clubs with the members, they'll fight over women's. And one of the sayings used to be bros before hoes, but everything's changed on the motorcycle club scene where a lot of people don't believe in that anymore. But a lot of club stuff has started over women, and I know 2 big clubs where it started over that. And I just personally believe a woman ain't worth, your brother getting killed over or going to prison. But that's just the way I think. Maybe you should start thinking that way too. A lot of problems come with that. But I think the biggest reason why you're seeing a lot of violence out there is not only territory stuff, because personally I think the bottom rocker stuff with the state on it has really overlived its purpose, don't you think? Now, I know a lot of clubs are gonna, say, no, that's not right, and I'll have members blowing up my phone saying that ain't right. My studio's gonna be full of freaking emails and voicemails after this one. Trust me, I know that one. But the state rockers, I think, has outlived its purpose as far as claiming territory or fighting. You got major clubs in every freaking state there is, so why are you going to put out, violence over a state rocker? And I think that also applies to a lot of clubs. Now, everybody understands my lookout on protocol, okay? I believe it's there for a reason, but I also believe that maybe it should be updated a little, because you old guys know the protocol was started because clubs started to expand. They got into those territories, wanted to make sure their patch designs weren't being stolen, their logos, their names. But it came out... if you watch or you listen to Sonny in one of his books, he even said if they went by protocol in those days when Oakland first started up, they wouldn't have got approved. So, but anyway, it was supposed to be about keeping other clubs from stealing your stuff. And now it's turned out to be where, well, if you're going to have an MC, you got to get it blessed and all that type of stuff. And I actually think you're wondering why there's all these pop-up clubs, because with times, they change. It's not old days anymore, man. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s. This is 2019, and you have a different crop of people coming into the scene right now. They were raised different. Come on. Half these people, they don't know what it was to be outside, ride a bicycle when you're a kid, hoping for a Harley. They don't know what that means. They are people who feel that they deserve stuff. So now you got all these pop-up clubs, and I think this is what some leads to violence, are starting up. And then they're thinking, well, why should I do this? Next thing you know, one of the 1%er members go and confront them, and next thing you know, there's a fight because, quite honestly, you got a lot of clubs that are standing their grounds that are considered pop-ups, even though a lot of people will argue, well, 1%ers did it, so why should we have to do it? A lot of stuff they don't understand about that is 1%ers that started up, they held their ground. Now, when I guess I don't even like hearing or, bringing up pop-up clubs, because I always believed if you can stand your ground, it's you. early on, and a lot of people don't like them, is Kinfolk. Early on, they had some messed up stuff. They went it the wrong way until they changed the leadership. But you got to give them credit because they stood their ground. They were them. Another one was one club that started out on the East Coast, and I don't remember it. The Rock Machine, it is. I think it is. They were out on the East Coast, and they were considered a pop-up club, even though they weren't. They were actually the club that fought in the Quebec Wars in the 90s, and they held their own for a long while against one of the majors up there. They actually got a monopoly up in Canada, but they took it to them, man. And a lot of clubs nowadays, you got to remember, it wasn't just about motorcycles that they're bringing in. A lot of these clubs have guys that did time in street crews, man. I'm talking hardcore gangs. And they're just not going to sit there and let somebody say, well, you can't do this. Hey, some of these guys started off in the scene, in the gang scene at 9 years old. They had shots fired, dealing with drive-by shootings. You really think that they're going to let somebody tell them what to do? Those are some of the type of people coming in these one percenter clubs now, and they're also coming into the pop-up clubs. So now you got this mentality of where, well, this is how we got to solve our problems. Where the best place has always been to solve your problems was at the table. But when you mix street gang members into motorcycle clubs, you got a whole different dynamic. So you got to remember that. And I think that actually has led to a lot more fighting within the club scene, because you got guys that are not backing down anymore. Again, does that make them motorcycle gangs? No, I don't believe so. I do believe if you do gang stuff, you're a gang. It's just the way it is. But I do believe those certain members give the club a bad name, and again, it's up to the officers to say, enough is enough, man. We're tired of the cops. We're tired of being beat up in the media, and when one of you guys get out of line, it's time to hit the road. I know when I was in the Pistons, you weren't allowed to do any of that stupid stuff. You'd be kicked to the street, man, because they didn't want all the cops. They didn't want all the media attention. They just wanted to go out there, do their thing, enjoy their brotherhood, enjoy the party, and enjoying the lifestyle. So you would think that after all this stuff going on, the officers would say enough's enough. Come on, out in Cali, you had a chapter go down for selling meth. Now, everybody knows I think meth, you know what? If you go down for meth, do life in prison, man. Because you're not only destroying what your brotherhood's about, but you're destroying lives of the people that are buying it, and you're destroying the lives of that person's family. And I've seen a lot of kids suffer over that. You're nothing but dirtbags if you sell meth. I'll be straight up on that. I don't care if you're trying to make a little money on the side, but when it comes to meth, it comes to heroin, no, you're not worth nothing to me. You're just a low dirtbag, and I put you in the same category as a rat or something. That's how low you are if you're out there selling meth. But, some incidences of some of the clubs fighting have come down, and let's be honest, nobody wants to say it, especially other creators that are out there. They don't believe in talking bad about clubs, but I believe in being real. I believe that if it's broken, throw it out there, let a debate start going, and see where the chips fall. Maybe that debate helps the subject, but some club members get into selling dope. They get into selling some hardcore stuff. We see it in the news. I don't care if you don't like Leo or not. I'm not fond of him, as you know. I've spoke about that in the past, but let's be honest, they do that stuff. They get caught. I just talked about it. And what leads to that kind of situation is members that are doing it and other members that are doing it from another club. They get into the territorial beef. Next thing you know, shots are fired, and they bring in the entire club into personal beefs. That is one thing I'll never understand. Yeah, you gotta defend your brother's keeper and all that good stuff. But I just don't get it. I don't understand why you bring a whole entire organization into a beef. If it's a local type of stuff, let them handle their beat outside without your club stuff. Or bring it up and get a commission going and say, hey, man, this is what went down. How do we freaking, solve this problem? Who's paying the restitution to who? That kind of stuff. But you're only doing yourselves harm being on the news, man, and I can't stress that enough. But with all this fighting, all it's going to do is drag you down. And I actually got to say, every time I look in the morning at what's going on, it's like, does somebody have a brain out there? Does somebody, I'm just asking a question, does somebody have the brain, or does somebody have the leadership to say, enough's enough of this RICO crap? Enough's enough of the government trying to go after a patch of a 1%er club. Enough's enough. We are giving them the ammo. Somebody has to sit up and say it. We're giving the feds the ammo to come after us. I found it abhorrent that some of the media are now putting motorcycle clubs and I think this is happening down in Texas. They are putting motorcycle clubs in the same category as cartels. Cartels, people. That's what they're listed on alongside of. They're also putting them on MS-13's type of level. We all know that ain't true, but the clubs are giving it to them. When you give them something, they're going to take it 10 miles long, man. That's just the truth of the matter, because you got them all giddy that you're doing it, and I'm going to have to tell you, another reason why some clubs fight is because Leo started it, man. They started working it from, especially in social media now, but they started these undercover ops where some of their own officers are starting the beefs between clubs, and they let it explode. They don't stop it, and they don't have no accountability when it comes to it. And that is what I think irritates me the most, is when Leo starts something, they'll put it out in rumors. Those rumors really get something started, because everybody knows when rumors start, it always 10 miles down the damn road happens, okay? It gets all messed up, somebody adds on to it, and this guy adds on to it, and it's like, you guys bought into it. Instead of going up to the people and say, hey, what's up? Is this true or not? You let Leo start it. And here they are sitting back smiling the whole time because their rumor started the fights between the club. Again, it's, counterintelligence stuff that they're running on these people. Why? Because you have different law enforcement authorities putting them on the same side as cartels. And you wonder why all the profiling's going on? You wonder why when you go to rallies, you got people in armored personnel carriers, man. You got the guys standing out there all decked out in fatigues. You got your freaking AR-15s on them. And it's like, really, man? Last time I checked, man, we weren't the Middle East, man. But now it's like they set up checkpoints. They're on the radio like they were at the Lone Star rally. And check into it. I did that piece. You can actually hear them on the radio, man. It's like, yeah, I know it used to be, it wasn't as bad though, man. These guys are really freaking bad now. It's like, damn, man, you got military operations going against a lot of people. So, yeah, I believe that clubs bring it on themselves, and that's a point I believe in. I believe that Insane Throttle Motorcycle Madhouse, even though we support motorcycle club rights, we're not going to support violence, and we're sure the heck ain't going to support anybody dealing with meth and stuff, or even that, guns. And that's one thing, and you know, I'm not talking about SOA, okay? It does happen on the street, and clubs getting, you know, some clubs get involved in it. Dealing guns, we're having enough problems in this country with the Second Amendment, with people, you know, a failed presidential candidate who just dropped out said, and you know, you do got other people in that field that's saying, well, you need to turn in your guns to the government, or if not, you can keep them at a gun club or something, but you're going to have to hand them in. Or you got these red flag laws where you're not even getting due process. So we have a lot of problems happening when it comes to gun control. So when clubs get involved in that kind of stuff, you're not helping anything. Not only you're not helping yourself, but you're not helping our Second Amendment. So come on, man, really? Come on. You know, I know clubs have to make some money, but you can make more money legally, and this is something I've learned from the past, than you can illegally. Because you're always going to be there paying for lawyers, having jail time, and all that jive. But before I finish this segment, is it worth fighting between each other when you have so much in common with each other? That's a question I have. I know it's never going to be answered because, again, human nature is mine is bigger than yours, and it's never going to stop until somebody gets smart. And hopefully somebody gets smart soon, because the profiling of clubs is just getting more and more. And the more that the representatives that you're trying to lobby see the violence, you're not going to have anywhere to go pretty soon. You're really not. You do got to thank the National Confederation of Clubs and the council for all the work they're doing. Motorcycle Riders Foundation, ABATE, you got to thank them because they're at least trying. But damn, man, give them some help. Stay off the news. Stay out of the media. And stop the violence. I never thought I'd use that term, stop the violence. But as I get older and sit back and look, it's like, yeah, man, you got to stop the violence because you're just bringing a bad name on motorcycle clubs. Let's be serious, honest. You're bringing a bad name to the clubs and to yourself. And you can't go out there and cry and whine when, you know, it's time to pay the piper, man. That's just my thoughts. But anyway, that is my segment. Let me know what you think in the show notes and all that type of stuff. Are we ever going to get some peace within the club scene? Let me know, and then let's start the debate, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Need your daily dose of biker news? Then what are you waiting for? Visit HarleyLiberty.com and keep up to date with all the happenings in the biker scene. And wait! There's more. Insane Throttle Biker News is now on Instagram. Come on over and give us a follow and get special video content not seen elsewhere on the net. Just type in Insane Throttle Biker News in the search bar.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7.
Don't wanna fuck with.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.